girl, don't lie to me. Tell me, where did you sleep last night? Come on, tell me, baby. In the pond, where the sun don't ever shine. I was shivered all night too. My girl, where will you go? I'm going where the cold wind blows. Where's that, baby? In the pond, where the sun don't ever shine. I was shivered all night too. My girl, don't you lie to me. Tell me, where did you sleep last night? Come on and tell me something about it. In the ponds, where the sun don't ever shine. I was shivered all night too. Shiver for me now. What happened down there? My husband was a hard working man, killed a mile and a half from here. What happened to him? His head was found in a driver wheel, and his body haven't never been found. My girl, don't you lie to me. Tell me, where did you sleep last night? Come on and tell me something about it. In the ponds, where the sun don't ever shine. I was shivered all night too.
That was Where Did You Sleep Last Night by Leadbelly. I ran out of songs to promote in terms of my stepbrother's music, and no one's approached me yet to have me promote their music. That is available if anyone out there is interested in having their music promoted on my show. Send me a sample. If I like it, I'll put it up as the opener. I used Leadbelly though in this particular song because I've always liked the sound of the sort of the classic blues like this, and this particular song I ran across looking and exploring the genre some. I ran across this song last week and really enjoyed it. I listened to it a number of times back to back and on repeat essentially for a couple hours, and I really like the sound, so I thought I would share that with you. And it's public domain too, so that makes it easier. There's no copyright problem with sharing that with you, which is cool too. At least that particular recording. I don't know about other recordings, but anyway. So that was Where Did You Sleep Last Night by Leadbelly, and I am E.S. Wynn, the Midnight Rider, and this is the Midnight Rider podcast, episode number 7. And we've got some stuff to talk about tonight, some interesting things, so let's hop to it. Let's see. In regards to my magazines, those who are interested in being published and those who are interested in reading some awesome fiction, check out my magazines. You can view all of them in the online section of Thunderoon Publishing's main website, which is www.thunderoon.com. And the 3 magazines that are currently accepting submissions, there are 4, but one of them is not safe for work, so I don't normally talk about it on the podcast to avoid, accusations of gratuitous mature language, as it were. But the other three magazines that are totally open to submissions are Daily Love, Leaves of Ink, and Linguistic Erosion. So let me give you a quick report on those real quick. Leaves of Ink is, I about 50% full for the coming 30-day period. I like to try to keep a 30-day cushion on all my magazines, just so that if something happens, say an unexpected health event or something like that, they won't suddenly stop. And I tend to keep working on the submissions pretty much near constantly, so there's always something new that I'm plugging in pretty much every day, and those who send stuff in pretty much know that most of the time I respond within 24 to 48 hours. I like to keep all the emails pretty much for the editorial boxes, or for the submission boxes for my magazines, go send little reminders to me straight to my primary email address. So as soon as something comes in, it's almost like a little reminder, a little, hey, you might want to, or there's a submission, there's someone waiting to talk to you. And maybe that's part of one of the reasons why I have this strange, I don't know, quasi-neurosis about, working my butt off constantly. But anyway, so Linguistic Erosion is another one. Linguistic Erosion is doing pretty good. When I mentioned that Leaves of Ink was about halfway full on the cushion, that means I'm up to about, January, or not January, May 9th, I do believe. I can check that real quick. And then Linguistic Erosion is currently all the way about almost, I'd say probably about 20 days worth of material. That one's a little bit easier to find good material for, because of the fact that for some reason people tend to send in more fiction than poetry, number one, and number two, I also run it sort of every other day, which means that there's more room there's less room to plug stuff in. So but yeah, the 19th, I've stuff plugged in all the way through the 19th for Linguistic Erosion. I have stuff plugged in all the way through the 6th of May for Leaves of Ink, and Daily Love is currently all plugged in all the way up until May 8th. So there's plenty of room. Like I said, I like to try to keep a 30-day cushion. So send your stuff in, and I'll take a look at it. I'm much more receptive to it to fiction and poetry when my magazines are running low on their cushions, simply because of the fact that when I start getting more than 30 days worth of a cushion of submissions, I start to be a lot more picky. I start to pass on submissions just because they have an error or two that I could easily fix, but there's another piece that has no errors that I could plug in that's just as good. It's that sort of thing, along the lines of they say that if you had two people who were both applying for the same job and they had the same experience and the same qualifications, but one of them went to your same university as you did, or one of them knew your dad or whatever, you're going to take that one. You're going to take the one that has that little strange edge. So that kind of thing. Anyway, so that's the status of the magazines. They're all doing pretty good. Now is a great time to send stuff in, I think, is what I'm saying. They're not desperately low. They're not overbooked, and so it's the perfect time to send stuff in. And like I said, just go to www.thunderoon.com and check the online section, and all the links are there, so check those out. And the magazine that's not safe for work is always open for submissions. That one publishes on an occasional schedule, which means when stuff comes in, if I like it, I put it up. And if nothing comes in, then it'll go for weeks without anything up there. But that's sort of a side project, that particular one. So, other than that, let's talk Kickstarter. Currently, I'm running a project on Kickstarter. I mentioned this in the past 2 episodes, so there's always that. Voyage of the Tereshkova is the name of the project that I have on Kickstarter that I've created. It's a space exploration card game. Pretty cool. So far, we're at a little over 15% with $320 toward our $2,000 goal, and 17 days to go. So I'm optimistic. I'm excited about where this will go, and the card game, I'll give you a little rundown real quick if you missed it in the previous episode. Voyage of the Tereshkova is a space exploration card game that can be played solitaire or against friends. Voyage of the Tereshkova is a space exploration card game. Let's see, to compete for the highest survey score, collect rare metals, salvage chunks of alien starships, and recruit crew members as you explore the galaxy, seeking out the best worlds for future colonization. Brave the dangers of deep space, make hard decisions that can affect the rest of your survey mission, and know when to cut your losses before you come back empty-handed, or worse, dead. So currently, I've got the drafts for all game components completed. The cards are pretty much all made. I'm just moving on to revisions and checking and balancing and stuff like that. So we're currently ahead of schedule with it. There is still stuff to be done, and I'm hoping to get the pledges up to the $2,000 range before the deadline of May 11th. And if we can do that, then the project will definitely be ready to go. And I actually have stretch goals implemented now too. We got current goal is $2,500. If the project manages to raise $2,500, they're all backers at the $10 and above support levels will receive a digital copy of the first expansion to the card game, which is currently in the works. If the project doesn't get funded, I probably won't finish the expansion. But if it does get funded, I get that, we get it up to the $2,000. I'm planning on making the expansion because basically the $2,000. If I can get $2,000 pledged towards the project, that proves to me that people are interested in the game. And if people are interested in the game, then there's a reason to make an expansion. If people aren't interested in the game, if there aren't enough people who are interested in the game and it flops or it doesn't make even that small amount of $2,000, there's no reason to make the expansion, and there are other projects I can move on to. But let's say, best case scenario, not only do we hit the $2,000, but we manage to blow through it and get to $2,500. We managed to raise $2,500 for the Voyage of the Tereshkova product, like I said. Or card game. Like I said, all backers, everyone who pledges $10 or more, will get a digital copy of the first expansion absolutely free. Totally free. As a bonus, as a thank you for telling your friends, spreading the word, letting people know that this card game exists, because I think the main problem right now, the main reason why we haven't collected more than 15% in the course of 11 days is because of the fact that people just don't know about it. Because that's the only thing I can think of. I've had a lot of people give me feedback, and the balancing and the playtesting and whatnot is a great source for feedback as well. So and everything looks good. So tell your friends, let people know, and we can make this project work. There's also a stretch goal planned for $3,000 if we manage to get all the way up to $3,000, and I plan on implementing others from there. But I've listed on the project page that the next goal beyond the current goal is $3,000, and that the reward is top secret. So if we can get to $2,500, then I'll be sticking that next goal up there, and I will definitely have a reward plugged in there. So that'll be cool. So tell your friends, stop on by, drop $10. That's the lowest level of the pledge. I mean, it's you get a digital copy of the game for that, and you can print it out at home, put it together. It's real. The print and play version that's $10 is real simple to put together. And hey, it comes with 10,000 words or so thereabouts of original fiction by me that'll ground you in that particular in the universe of Voyage of the Tereshkova. And fans of the Cygnus War, if you've read the Cygnus War, it'll give you something in that universe as well to sort of expand your the realm for you, as it were, that particular sci-fi universe. So definitely a cool project. I'm definitely excited to be working on it. I've been working like crazy on it, keeping busy, putting the time in, getting ready to get it out there. I've also, another project I've been watching on Kickstarter here lately is another science fiction game put together by Palladium Books. I've been a fan of Palladium Books for quite a while, mostly because of Robotech, which I was really into as a kid, and enjoy to some degree now. I haven't seen the Macross Saga or anything along those lines. I haven't watched them in quite a while. years even. But there is something about those Veritechs and the Zentradi that are part of Robotech, which really brings back some fond memories from childhood. And so anyway, so Palladium Books, was a fan of them from way back when I first started getting into RPGs and stuff like that. Palladium Books was the first one to release the Robotech RPG, and I never got a chance to play it, but I did get the books as a kid. I did, save up enough money from mowing the lawn and picking up dog crap in the yard and stuff like that to scrape together the cash to get that book so I could drool over the sort of supplementary material to the series that I loved so much at the time. And so it's neat that they're doing a re-release. They're re-releasing a lot of the Robotech stuff, and it's better than that too. It's not just the old books. If it was just the old books, I wouldn't be interested. But it's so much more. It's also it's called, the new one is called Robotech RPG Tactics. And Robotech RPG Tactics is on Kickstarter right now. They originally had a goal of $70,000, and they blew through that in the first 4 hours. I'm amazed at how much money this has made for Palladium Books. They've made about $1,000 an hour so far at this point. And I'm really genuinely impressed. And the cool thing about Palladium Books releasing the new Robotech game on Kickstarter is that they also have stretch goals, like most projects on Kickstarter. They have these stretch goals, and I've been watching them because I dipped into my savings and dropped and got the it's just I couldn't resist. Especially through Kickstarter, where you get all kinds of bonuses. But I dropped into my savings, yes, bad boy, bad Earl, and picked up something nice for myself. I picked up the Battle Cry set, which is the $140 set, and the reason why I chose the $140 set is because you get all of the stretch goals with the basics. Well, it's more than just the basic set. It's a basic set with extra stuff, with all the stretch goals that are offered as upgrades to that basic set for Kickstarter backers only. So I thought, well, the main set's $80, and I wouldn't normally spend $80 on something a game in a sense, but an opportunity like this only comes along once every 20 years, right? And I figure if this is the one nice thing that I do for myself this year, then I think I can justify it. But anyway, so far, it comes with all kinds of extra doohickeys, all kinds of cool extra bits and whatnot. I'm so excited, about the thing, and that I've taken some time out of my day to pick up some foam board and start drawing streets on it. And I've got some old cardboard stand-up 6mm terrain from years ago, back when I used to do BattleTech in high school. My longtime friend and I, Randy Morgan, who's just an awesome dude. I've been friends with him since kindergarten. We used to play BattleTech like crazy in high school. And BattleTech, for those who aren't familiar, BattleTech is a strategy, it's referred to as a tabletop war game, and featuring these sort of battles between these giant robots. And you have like a squad of giant robots, and your enemy or your opponent has a squad of giant robots, and they have different statistics, the different robots and whatnot, and for those who have no idea what I'm talking about, think chess, and instead of the difference between the pieces being that knights can move in an L shape and rooks can move in straight lines and stuff like that, think of it this way: you've got a knight, a rook, a queen, and a pawn on your side, and your opponent has the same thing. But instead of only being able to move in certain amounts, each one of them can move a certain number of spaces. The pawn, instead of only being able to move 1 or 2 right out the gate, the pawn can move 5 because it's small and fast. And, but the queen, that's an assault unit. The queen can move 1 space, or 2, maybe. But man, at range, she can blast the other side. You get her out in the open, and the missiles that fly off of that queen will just blast all the enemies at the other end of the table. That's BattleTech in a nutshell. in a sense, there's a lot more to it than that. But I had a lot of fun playing that as a kid. That's at the 6mm scale, standard wargaming scale, from what I hear, and so I've still got little bits and pieces and stuff that I put together from back in the day for BattleTech gaming. But I never had a proper board, and since then, in the oh goodness, making me feel old here. In the 10 years or 15 years since I was in high school, the internet is now full of papercraft 6mm terrain. So you can go to all kinds of different websites and find all kinds of highly detailed buildings in the, well, there's some of them are in 10mm too, but there's a couple different websites. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but just look for paper 6mm or 6mm terrain, and you'd be surprised what you find out there. There's all kinds of neat stuff for people who are into wargaming, and that's cool because, you know, it's hard to find. There's a lot of World War I stuff out there. You go to your local hobby shop, World War II also. You can find all kinds of World War I, World War II wargaming stuff in 6mm, but when you're doing something like Robotech or Battletech that's sci-fi, it's sci-fi wargaming, and you want to have, you know, like a modern city and modern vehicles, and you want to be able to have this sort of urban warfare where one side is trying to protect the city and the other side is trying to destroy it, you know, that it's really exciting in my opinion, and it can be hard to find pre-made materials, but fortunately in the years since I used to play Battletech in high school, there has been all kinds of neat stuff that has come out that you can print at home. You know, get a pair of scissors or an X-Acto knife and assemble it. And so I'm putting together a board for that in anticipation of the Robotech. And I had a friend that gave me a few bucks to put towards it too, as sort of an early birthday present. That's coming up too. I've got a birthday coming up in a couple weeks, so that defrays the cost as well, which is always good. But and so part of my thank you to him is when the stuff comes in, because the Robotech Kickstarter, it's already hit its minimum. So the money that comes in now just means extra figures for those who get in on the Kickstarter. The main set won't have all the neat stuff that you'll get if you pledge in the Kickstarter. So if you're into Robotech, look up Robotech on Kickstarter right now. Go pull up Google and do it, because it's only going to be going on for how many more days? Let me check real quick. It is only going to be going on for 26 more days. So a little bit of breathing room, depending on when you're hearing this. If you're into Robotech, or if you're into sci-fi wargaming, give this one a look. They've even got a gameplay demo on the main page, and you can always stop over and drop $10 on Voyage of the Tereshkova while you're over there too. But like I said, the cool thing about the Kickstarter is the more money that gets dropped on the Robotech one, the more stuff you get if you get on the bandwagon now. And if you don't get on the bandwagon now and you let it go all the way to the end, and Robotech is something you're interested in, you can still, I'm sure, get the full kit at some point down the line, but you're going to miss out on a lot of special edition figures that are only available through the Kickstarter. So, you know, I'm not being paid to endorse this, but I really like Robotech, so I'm going to endorse it right now. Hey, I'm endorsing it. So there is definitely that. That's worth checking out. And let's see, other than that, other than Kickstarter, other than magazines, another exciting development which just happened here in my life, which is pretty cool, is I was for those who've been listening to this series for a little while, and anyone who's looked at my bio actually will realize that I am a Freemason, and I'm proudly a Freemason. And those of you who are just hearing this for the first time, don't freak out. I don't know. I get mixed reactions when I tell people I'm a Freemason. When I tell people, you know, that I'm in Masonry, I am a Freemason, they either, you know, say something like, "Oh, cool. Does that mean you know, are hyper rich, or does that mean you know, are in control of the world, or do all kinds of crazy stuff like that. No, that's not what Freemasonry is. Yes, there have been famous people and rich people in the past who have become Freemasons, and a lot of the lodges I've seen are more than happy to have someone famous, to sort of get the word out there about Freemasonry. So, yeah, there are a lot of famous people and there are a lot of rich people who are Freemasons, but there is a saying in Masonry as well, and that saying is, here's something to consider actually if you're digging all that conspiracy stuff. A greedy man may get into Masonry, but no Masonry gets into him. So consider that. It's those who don't know anything about Freemasonry. Let me just tell you, Freemasonry is not evil. It's not dark magic. It's not even anything. I mean, it's inclusive to all religions, religions and spiritualities. They're technically closed to atheism, or to atheists, but they aren't closed, or they're open to. Think of it this way: in a sense, it's a great place for there to be brotherhood, or to encourage brotherhood between Christians, Islam, or Muslims, Jewish people, these various sorts of things. It seeks to the point of Freemasonry is to make men brothers, in a sense, regardless of the things that might normally separate them. A great example I like to use of this is the fact that I have a really great friend in Freemasonry who I would never have become friends with otherwise. And it's not because of any sort of secret ritual that compels me to be his friend or anything like that. No, I genuinely like this guy. I genuinely like him, which is a surprise because I normally can't stand to be around people who are, flamingly right-wing, and this guy is one of the most right-wing people I know. I come from a family of hippies. My dad, when he was in high school, carved peace signs into the soles of his flip-flop shoes and would purposely walk through puddles so he'd leave peace signs behind him everywhere he went. I mean, this is my family. I live in an apartment, and the first thing I did was put in an organic garden outside, I don't take it to extremes. I don't eat tofu. I know plenty of people who do, and if you eat tofu, hey, more power to you. My wife likes tofu. I can't stand the stuff. Maybe I'm more of a functional hippie, is the way I would look at it. I eat meat. I'm not your stereotypical, does it have gluten in it? Hippie, and no offense to those of you with celiac disease, because that is some gnarly stuff. Definitely gnarly. And I have nothing but sympathy for those who have celiac disease and Crohn's disease. That is not fun either. And for those, if anybody out there is listening to this and you have celiac or Crohn's, if you, how do I put this? I want to say I would pray for you, but that's very Christianocentric, and I like to think of myself as sort of having an open spirituality that I practice. But I'm thinking of you positively. I'm sending you good vibes, and these are two horrible diseases that I'm really hoping will be passed. We'll be able to get rid of within hopefully as soon as possible. Hopefully, absolutely as soon as possible. And I actually have a number of causes on a list for when I become famous that I plan to donate to, and two causes that I plan to donate to actually are celiac and Crohn's, because those are some gnarly diseases, and I fortunately do not suffer from either one, but I have nothing but sympathy and best wishes and prayers for those who do. But anyway, so Freemasonry. If it wasn't for Freemasonry, and the idea of being brothers first, I probably never would have become friends with this guy. He's just diametrically opposed. His beliefs are absolutely opposed to mine, in a sense. I'm not I try not to follow one particular party or another, because I think that both parties here in America are a little screwy, and I'm sure there are people who will tune right out now. They're, oh, you think my party's screwy? Well, if you're hard left wing or hard right wing, yeah, you are a little screwy. There's a great zone. Let me tell you something here real quick. There's a great place right between Republican and Democrat. It doesn't have a name, except maybe moderate. Okay? Moderate. That's where I like to be. More moderate. Although some of my beliefs are a little more liberal, like I support gay marriage. I support the complete legalization and decriminalization of marijuana. And well, actually, honestly, I and this is funny because people have improperly cast me as some sort of person who uses various drugs of certain types because of my beliefs. I believe in the decriminalization of all drugs because I think that making drugs a taboo, making any drug a taboo, making anything at all a taboo in a sense, with maybe the exception of some pretty heinous and horrible things which are illegal, is just going to make it more attractive to people. I mean, think about premarital sex, you know what I mean? Or think about, there was a chart I ran across somewhere years ago, and if you don't like that kind of referencing, feel free to not listen at this point, because I can't tell you where I found it or when it was, but I do remember a chart that showed that when people, there was some sort of a study that when people are told something is taboo for a long period of time, and suddenly it's not taboo, usage does spike temporarily, but then it falls back down, and the usage levels become lower than they were when it was taboo or illegal. Now that's interesting to me. So therefore, if we completely decriminalized all drugs across the U.S. right now, in theory, one of the things that would happen would be that, suddenly there would be a ton of drug use for a short period of time, but then afterwards it would die back down and be lower in occurrence than it was before. And if all drugs are decriminalized and made totally legal, will I go out and smoke weed or snort crack? No. I'm happy with my drug. My drugs, how about that? Okay, let me tell you, these are real hard drugs. Here's my hard drugs that I do. Caffeine. My wife. Ooh, that's a hard one, let me tell you. And writing. There you go. They're my 3 hardcore drugs that I do. So, but so if they were made totally, legal, would that change my usage? No, it wouldn't. I would still continue to do the things that I like to do. But I do believe that it would allow for some real quality control for those who choose to use certain things. I mean, for example, the various types of drugs that are cut, street drugs that are cut with all kinds of horrible things. Think about that for a second. If we were able to find a way, or if we were able as a society to make these illegal substances legal and uncontrolled, so people could, sell them, like you could go to the gas station and get meth, you know what I mean, for example, then there would be a standard for quality, and people would be able to get it for less expensive, therefore making it less special. It would be totally available to anybody, therefore it would be less taboo, and it wouldn't be cut with weird stuff that would make people really sick. You know what I mean? And I'm sure meth makes people sick anyway by itself, but from what I've heard, hard drugs like that, the main problem is not the drug itself, but rather the things that it is cut with. And if we can eliminate that, if we can eliminate the cutting of street drugs with things like bleach and gravel and asphalt, then I think that'll help a lot of people out who otherwise would be horribly affected by these sorts of things. So, I mean, anyway, little left of center. Yes, I am. I also a little right of center in regards to how I feel about gun rights. And I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who disagree with me on that. Like, for example, the recent gun legislation that was voted upon and voted down. I think I may have talked about this in the last episode. I support the legislation. Yes. So left of center right there, right? I support the legislation. It seems like good legislation to me. It seems fair. But at the same time, if it doesn't pass, I don't think that's necessarily such a bad thing, because the loopholes it closes are so small, are so, I don't know, nebulous. People can still find ways around them, and I'm not advocating complete removal of guns from society, because I think that's a foolish idea. There's an old saying that if you make it illegal, or if you make it criminal to own guns, then only criminals will own guns, and that's about right. I mean, that's what we see in countries that have completely criminalized gun ownership. And so, I mean, that's something to think about. Yes, people should be allowed to have guns for home defense. That's my stance. But at the same time, I also believe in a certain amount of regulation. These various murders that were done with guns were not because of gun availability. They were done because people are crazy, and the system is broken, and society is leaving people behind. And I think we need to look into the social and the mental health aspect of it first before we go ban all guns because guns kill people. That's my stance, and I am really disgusted with some of the responses in the Democratic Party, and some of the responses. Let me just say that some of the responses, like and progressives too. One of the things that really upset me was the thing where immediately following the voting on the legislation, one of the political organizations whose newsletter I ascribed to, and I won't say which one, launched a campaign to plaster the faces of those who voted against the legislation all over billboards and all over advertisements, almost like a lynch mob, like, here are the people who are killing your children, and it was just ridiculous, and it disgusted me. These people who are doing the voting, yes, they are our representatives. Yes, they represent our country, but damn it, they are people, and their votes are theirs. If you want to get rid of corporate corruption, then go for that. But don't assign or don't organize lynch mobs to try to, shame these people publicly. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. That would be like, your boss decides not to give your employees a raise in your company this year, and so you start a pool amongst your fellow workers and raise up enough money to print a color newsletter for the whole department that says what an ass the boss is, and here's the picture of the boss. If you see him, flick rubber bands at him. I mean, it's that kind of thing. No, the organization didn't, specifically say you need to kill these people, but at the same time, it is a public shaming. It's like hanging these representatives up in a stock, so you can throw apples at them. It's ridiculous. And I think that kind of herd mentality needs to be put back into check. The left likes to accuse the right of, being sheep and following the herd. Well, I see a fair amount of that going on the left-hand side, too. Why can't we all just think and gravitate more towards a more independent mental perspective? But, I don't know. We all have our hot buttons. Mine are student loans, as you know. And I'm sure that I'm a bit of a sheep when it comes to student loans, and I'll just buy my way all the way to the slaughterhouse trying to get rid of mine. But, that's me. And we all have our things. So we all have a piece of the puzzle, as Timothy Leary would say. But other than that, I got a bit sidetracked. We were talking about Freemasonry, and this guy that I know, who became a really good friend of mine, through Freemasonry, and I'm really lucky that way. I'm really lucky that I was able to meet him through Freemasonry and get to know him, and really, spend some time realizing that he's an okay guy before I found out what his politics were. If I had known him from his politics first, I wouldn't have even taken the time to get to know him, and I would have really missed out on making a real friend. So Freemasonry is a wonderful thing this way. It promotes brotherhood among men, and personally, everybody who's in my lodge is a blue-collar worker or middle class. So I don't know, I'm sure there are people amongst the rich elite who are Freemasons. But as they say, a greedy man may get into Freemasonry, but no Freemasonry gets into him. Because Freemasonry is about brotherhood. It's about helping your brother, and in a sense, and not just males, but also those who are around you in general. We're all one species, the human race, and Freemasonry embraces that. My lodge, for example, has got people of all nationalities, all creeds, all ethnicities is the word I was looking for. We've had people of all ethnicities in the officer chain even, and the officer chain is within a lodge of Freemasons. You have different people. It's like with any group. For example, those who are familiar with Rotary Club, for example, or any kind of club or fraternal organization, it has a hierarchy in a sense. And in Freemasonry, you have the brothers. I mean, we're all equal. We all have an equal vote, and unless the vote is unanimous, then measures aren't passed. But you have the body of the brothers themselves, and then you have the officer chain. They call it the officer chain, because it's sort of generally what will happen in a lodge is you'll start at one end and you'll come out the other, and one end, the bottom end, is the marshals. If I'm realizing this correctly, there's still a lot about it. A lot about the little things, little nuances that I haven't quite picked up. You start out at the bottom as the junior marshal. You make your way up through the chain, and eventually, if you prove yourself amongst the brothers to be a true and virtuous and man who's looking out for his brothers and the species in general, in fact, you can ascend to the rank of worshipful master. And then, of course, after that, there's past masters who can sit in the east forevermore. The east being, the sunrise and stuff like that. The place where the light comes from, and light being synonymous with sort of wisdom in a sense. But we've had all kinds of people of all nationalities in the officer chain, and we have some right now. I won't go into details because I know how people are. There is somebody out there who will listen to this, I'm sure, who will say, "Oh, you're being racist because you're pointing out ethnicities or whatever." But you know what? Hey, whatever works. I think everybody has some kind of drama they need to air once in a while, I suppose, and that's the form that takes sometimes. Yes, I am a white male. Am I ashamed of that? No, but sometimes people make me feel like I should be, and that's ridiculous because as far as I know, I've never done anything to warrant that shame except perhaps being born, and that falls right back into the category of racism. So I don't know what to say to those who believe that I am, evil because I am a white male. But anyway, what I was gonna say before all this started was that I hit a milestone yesterday. Like I said, those who have been listening to the series know that I am a Freemason, and now it's official. I was actually raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason, which is 3rd degree. And for those conspiracy theorists out there, yes, that's as far as it goes. If you're looking for the 33rd degree and everything from 4th degree to 33rd degree, that's Scottish Rite or York Rite. So that's not the same. Those are appendant bodies, stuff that you can go into after your Blue Lodge, which the Blue Lodge is the main lodge. And according to the landmarks of Freemasonry, as it were, the stuff that doesn't change ever and hasn't changed in several hundred years, is according to the landmarks, you learn everything you are to learn about Masonry in your Blue Lodge. By third degree, you are a Master Mason, and that's it. Scottish Rite, York Rite, you go into those things to learn different things. In a way, it's still Masonry, but it's considered extra in a sense, or alternative points of view almost. Freemasonry is about the 3 degrees, and there is nothing above 33rd degree if you're in Scottish Rite. There's nothing above 3rd degree in regards to actual Freemasonry. But in regards to Scottish Rite and York Rite, yeah, they go up to 33, and there's nothing beyond that. So those of you who say stuff like, well, he's a 380 degree, Illuminati, weirdo, carbon, whatever thing, and from reptilian from Mars or whatever, I mean, that's just fucking fantasy land. I'm sorry, but it is absolutely a fantasy and nothing else. So, anyway, so yesterday, raised to the degree of Master Mason. So that's a pretty cool accomplishment. That's been in the works for over a year now, because I'm part of a traditional observance lodge. One of the things that was done here in California, and I think several other states, was part of sort of ascending through these degrees involves learning the material, learning the symbols of Masonry, in a sense, so that you know what they stand for, so that they become symbols in your own mind to remind you of things that basically keep you on your best behavior as a human being. You learn the symbols in each degree, and each degree goes over different symbols, and you commit to memory a short litany which expounds upon the symbols. And I'm not being vague here, because of secrets. I'm being vague here because there's a lot of material to cover. I mean, it's difficult to cover in detail over a course of 5 minutes the material that it took a year and a half to learn. What I mean? So if you are interested, there are plenty of websites out there. Try to find ones that are not in some weird fantasy land about, Masons worshiping Satan or whatever. Freemason.org. There you go. Try that one out. Freemason.org is a great place to go if you want to learn about Freemasonry. And heck, if you find a Mason, or you can ask me a specific question. What does the square and compass stand for? I will answer your question. That is what I am there for. And not only am I perfectly happy to do it, but I've actually been encouraged by people within the lodge who are officers and who are like district inspectors and stuff like that, to sort of open up this kind of stuff, explain the symbolism, let people know that it's not some sort of dark and shadowy and evil organization. It's an organization of people who are trying to better humankind by donating to causes like education and hospitals that treat burned children. I mean, doesn't get much more evil than that, right? I mean, So, anyway, so for a little over a year, almost a year and a half, I've been working on getting my 3 degrees of Masonry, and now I'm a 3rd degree Mason, so I'm a full-fledged Master Mason. I've got a dues card, and I've got the ring. I found a really great ring. I know lots of people who they wear their dad's ring or their grandpa's ring, or they go on to a jewelry store or online and pick up a golden ring, something really pretty. But I was offered to me. A couple of my relatives said, we can all come together to get you a really nice heirloom ring if you want. And I said, well, let me think about it. And I thought about it. And, I found a ring that I like a lot. The perfect ring for me, in a sense. And it was $15. And I think that's what it's about. It's not so much, you can get a big flashy ring with a diamond in the circle of the square and compass, you know what I mean? But or you can get a ring that really speaks to you, and I'm sure the diamond speaks to some people, but I'm not really interested in anything too flashy. I like the one that I have because it's stainless steel, so it doesn't, it's it won't tarnish, which is nice. And it has a neat little engraved look to it. It looks sort of engraved. It has the square and compass sort of in relief on it, which is pretty cool. It almost looks like one of those wax stamping rings, which is really neat. And like I said, it was $15, and I was able to find a ring that makes me happier than any ring I could have ever seen, and it was $15, which is great. I can't remember who made it, the jeweler who made it, but you can find them on Amazon. And all my relatives who were Masons, I don't know what happened to their rings, because it's been a while. I thought that I had a grandfather who was a Mason, but it turns out that none of my grandfathers were, but almost all of my great-grandfathers were. And who knows what happened to their rings. I'm sure they've been passed down to other men in the fraternity, and I'm hoping that they're being worn by people who appreciate them. That's kind of the way I feel about it. But anyway, so 3rd degree now. Pretty excited about that. I can wear the ring. You technically can't wear the ring until you're 3rd degree, and or any symbol to identify you as a Freemason until you reach 3rd degree. And I still have things to learn in a sense. Because there are symbols that I haven't fully explored the meanings of. I mean, I know the basics of almost all the symbols, and there are some symbols I know pretty well in depth, and like I said before, I'm part of a traditional observance lodge. We don't do anything quick. I mean, there are a lot of states that do the short form, which the short form you can get through all 3 degrees in a month, and you're a Master Mason, hey, but you don't learn as much, in my opinion. And so I went through the long form at my traditional observance lodge and learned all kinds of neat stuff. Learned a lot of really interesting things. And if you have any questions about Freemasonry at all, I mean, heck, just drop them in my contact box. I'll be happy to cover them even right here on the podcast. I love talking about Freemasonry because I think it's a great organization. I feel very lucky in that when I finally decided to set down roots and stay somewhere for some time here in Sacramento, I looked to see where the local Freemason and Oddfellows lodges were, because I was thinking I might want to be a part of one of them. And in all honesty, I chose to contact the Masonic Lodge because it was a mile closer. Now, this is why initially I contacted them. I thought, well, they're closer, I'll talk to them and see what they're about. Now, I had done some research on Freemasonry, and I thought it was interesting sounding, and, you hear a lot of crazy stuff, too, and I was a little bit intrigued by that. But it wasn't until I sat down with the guy who actually is the worshipful master at my lodge, Mike Henry. It wasn't until I actually sat down with him and started talking with him that I realized just how darn cool Freemasonry is and how much I wanted to be a part of it. I didn't even end up calling the Oddfellows. I was so impressed with Freemasonry, because it's not a service organization, and yet the service of mankind, in a sense, is one of the main tenets. Brotherly love, relief, and truth. We're all about doing the work required to make life easier, in a sense, for those who have it hard. And part of that is building a solid foundation, and that's what education is. Education, the money that is poured into education from Freemasonry equates to $1 million a day. $1 million a day being poured into a foundation to elevate the edifice, in a sense, of the mind of these individuals. No, the education system isn't perfect, but it's the best we have, and at least it's funded, in a sense, or at least there is some funding going into it from various organizations, Freemasonry among them. But really impressed with Freemasonry overall, and still great friends with the master of my lodge. He's an awesome guy, really interesting, more well-read than just about anybody I've ever met. The man has a giant bookshelf in his home of different things that he's read over the years, and he's like pointing them out, and he mentioned one time that I guess someone had come in and counted them, and he had over 1,000 on the shelf alone, and boxes, I guess somewhere else, of books that he had read that wasn't as interested in, that he just put in boxes because he didn't want to get rid of them, I guess. But classic example of how well read the guy is. He's brilliant. He's smart as a whip, and he's a few years older than my father, so he's kind of like a father-like figure that way, and he's been a great source of wisdom and inspiration over the last year or so that I've known him. So that's pretty cool. I'm very stoked to be a Freemason. I'm very stoked to have received the sort of the confidence of my brothers, that the confidence they had in me to raise me to third degree. And I am thinking about Shriners, the little guys in the cars who do the burn victim hospitals, and I've been thinking about Scottish Rite, York Rite. Curious about these sorts of things, but the time investment and the money investment. Every lodge you join has dues, and while those dues aren't really that bad, I mean the Blue Lodge, the main lodge, is only $100 a year. Well, mine's $125 a year, which isn't bad when you think about it. It boils down to $10 a month, and that's a pretty good deal considering what you get out of it, in my opinion, in terms of brotherhood and heck, just the opportunity to hang out with the guys. You know what I mean? That's a great deal, $10 a month. But, every lodge, and Scottish Rite and York Rite, our lodges, has dues. And I haven't looked into the dues for Scottish or York Rite, but I know that right now, with my current finances and my current busyness, as it were, Scottish Rite and York Rite might be, sometime down the line in the future. I'm curious. I'm interested. I want to go all the way to the top of every one of the organizations, and I know that just so I can learn. I'm curious. I want to know these things. I want to learn more. I love wisdom. I love the wisdom that other people carry, and that they're willing to impart and share, and I'm always curious. So that's another thing on my list of things to do when I'm more successful monetarily. Not quite so unknown. So tell your friends about me so I can learn more about Scottish Rite. Then you can ask me questions, and I can say, oh, yeah, it's a great organization. Or, York Rite's a great organization, and here's why. Here's all the cool things. So, tell your friends about me. Tell your friends about E.S. Wynn, world-famous author someday. You know what I mean? And so anyway, so that's sort of one of my things on my list, on my bucket list, as it were. And so I guess I kind of got distracted talking about all the recent things that have been unfolding in my life here lately. Other than that, let's see, what else is there that I could sort of jump off of in terms of things that I've been working on in my life. Other than that, I'm working on a number of different projects. Like I said, I'm working hard on Voyage of the Tereshkova, so that one's coming along nicely. And I'm also working hard on a couple different other projects. I've got, for those who are familiar with Liber Luminopticon, which was that was a really fun project to do. For those who are curious about it, it's on Thunderrune's website. It's also available at www.luminopticon.com. And I'm actually making a second book, sort of a companion guide to that, called Liber Vellum Vocis, and that one's currently in the works as well. And hoping to have that one out to you sometime early next month. And so I should be releasing a couple things real close together. Tereshkova, Liber Vellum Vocis, and I actually have a third project in the works as well, and a number of other things that are half completed that I plan on getting done this year. So I'm working like crazy on various different projects. I've got this sort of to-do list on a clipboard, and I'm working it through and taking it one step at a time, just sort of working through different projects and progressing forward towards completing my goal of reaching of having 50 published books before the age of 30. And that sounds like a very ambitious goal, but as I may have mentioned in a previous podcast, I already have 44 books completed, and I've got a couple more on the way, and I will be turning 30 in May of 2014, May next year. So if I can write 7 more books, then I will have over 50. 7 more books during the course of the next 13 months, which sounds perfectly reasonable to me. Then I will hit my goal. And I'm also gunning for Stephen King after that. If I remember correctly, he currently, under his main pen name, he has 57 books. And if I remember correctly, I can look that up real quick. But that's basically my next goal is to surpass Stephen King in terms of the number of books that he has which are published. And so that's kind of exciting. That's my next project after the 50 books before I turn 30. Got him here. Okay, so 50 novels, including 7 under the pen name of Richard Bachman, and 5 nonfiction books. So it looks like if I can hit 50 before the age of 30, then I'll have, or 51 before the age of 30, then I'll have more than him, because I also have, well, no, I guess not, because I've got 8 under one pen name, and 1 under another, and then a third pen name that has a book under it as well. So I've got a number of, well, 50 plus 10, he's got 50 plus 12. So, hey, just 2 more after the goal, and then I'll be there. I'll have more than him. Now, all I gotta do is achieve his level of popularity and copies sold. So his books have sold, it says here, more than 350 million copies. So there's another goal to gun for, right? Not just the material, but also the income. That would be nice. But so I can wipe out my student loan and focus on some of the things on my bucket list. Things like donating towards Crohn's disease and celiac disease, and hopefully putting more money towards AIDS research. I think that one's almost completed, thank goodness, from the stuff that I've been hearing. But I'd still like to be able to throw more money their way so they can get it done quicker, in a sense. And the space program too. That's another thing I would donate towards, the space program, for inspiring me and keeping me feeling sort of excited about the cosmos for so long. I think NASA needs our support for sure, and SETI as well, because even though SETI, some might argue that SETI is sort of a misguided idea, because it, if there is alien life out there, what are the chances that it would be broadcasting radio signals? Maybe not. And happen to be broadcasting them in our direction. We might be the only noisy monkeys, as it were, filling the cosmos with our noise out there. Who knows? Who really knows for sure? But I would still put money towards SETI, because I think it's just as reasonable to assume that the universe is full of noisy monkeys on radios as it is to assume that the universe has only one group of noisy monkeys on radios, and that would be us. So I would put money towards that as well. And get a ranch too. That's another thing I'm looking at. And not like something big like Skywalker Ranch, in some posh location. No, I'm talking about getting a house, not a giant house, 3-bedroom, that would be it. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, something that size, in the middle of nowhere, in an area where if it frosts, it doesn't frost too hard, so that I can have all kinds of plants that I grow out there, and all kinds of fruit trees, and I can have fruit trees so that every season there's some kind of fruit out there that I can go pick off the tree and eat, and it'll be a wonderful thing. That's sort of, and a couple of dogs. I love pit bulls, and for those who are freaked out by pit bulls, let me just tell you something real quick. They're not evil. I've actually talked to my wife a number of times. My wife was a little bit afraid of pit bulls, and I think a lot of people are. When you see the image of the dog with the cropped ears, like chewing on a baby or whatever, that is a little bit intimidating. But the truth is that I was, the house I was raised in, both dogs that I had between the ages of 0 and 12 or not 12, 16, were pit bulls. And they never hurt me. They would take such good care of me that my mother, when I was 10 years old, would let me walk the dog around the city, because the dog would get between me and anyone who ever, it was almost like the dog could sense ill intent. You know what I mean? Great dogs, very sweet, very loyal, very kind, really fun to hang out with, just lovey-dovey. And very intelligent, too. Outrageously intelligent. I had my second dog of the two, Phoebe. I had her trained just sort of, she picked it up on her own. It wasn't even intentional. But I kind of had her trained to follow hand signals. And I would point in a direction, and she would walk that direction when she was on the leash. And that was something she picked up entirely on her own, which is very impressive. They're very smart. And they're only cruel, and they only fight, if you train them to. And if you don't crop their ears, they have the cutest floppy ears. The only reason why the dog's ears are generally cropped is because that's what you do to a fighting dog, so that they don't rip each other's ears off to end up with infections from fighting, or the horrible pain of ripping each other's ears off. That's why they crop ears on pit bulls. So if you have a pit bull and you crop its ears for the look, that's kind of sad. And if you crop its ears for dog fighting, then, I think they should throw you in the pit with the fighting dogs too, so that, you can feel the full wrath of those teeth. But that's just my opinion. Falls into the category of, as George Carlin would say, here's a list of people who should be castrated and tossed in salt water. That kind of thing. But yeah, so bucket list. A couple of pit bulls, pit mixes actually, because purebred dogs have too many health problems in my experience. I'm sure there are purebred dog breeds out there who have no health problems, whatever. I would get mixes, and I would get them as puppies, so I could raise them, and they can get used to the property from the beginning. I've done the rescue dog thing, and while it's very noble and wonderful, I don't like having to fight for dominance over a dog that has been sort of mistreated during its lifetime. I've done it, and it's a pain in the ass. And there's always that moment forever after where you look at the dog and the dog looks at you, and you wonder, if that dog is going to jump at you and you're going to have to beat the crap out of it, or, what? If it's going to suddenly turn on you and bite you, or come after you, because it thinks now is the time when I can be the leader of the pack. And, so the rescue dog thing, hey, if you do that, you are awesome. I fully support that. You are one of the things that makes the world a wonderful place. But when I get ready to get a piece of land, I'm getting puppies. Done the rescue dog thing. Moving on. So, things like that. I've got simple dreams, simple desires, little things like that. I'm sure that I would buy my fair share of little silly things, you know what I mean? I'd probably pump, a couple $100 more into wargaming figures or whatever, and invite people over for games and stuff like that, because that's fun to me. But I don't know. I see lots of people I've heard lots of stories about lots of people who get rich and they blow all their money on silly stuff, or they buy things that they can't possibly maintain after they get rich. Like for example, you win the lottery and it's $10 million, so you buy a $10 million house. Well, how much is property taxes going to be on it next year? So then you end up losing your ass next year, and then suddenly you're worse off than you were before. That kind of stuff. It's an exaggeration, but I'm not the kind of person who would do that kind of stuff. I've done too much research into it, into sort of the change that happens when people go from being dirt poor to having a few extra bucks to toss around. And yeah, I can honestly say that I'm not going to be one of those people. And you can hold me to that, dear listeners. Someone listens to this and I'm famous at some point and rich and, you know, all the money and power, and enough money and power to make Solomon blush. You know, you can come around and say, hey, you said you weren't going to be an asshole, you know, in your podcast. You know, you said you were going to, you know, donate to Crohn's, and you said you were going to donate to, you know, celiac disease, and you said you were going to donate to AIDS research. And I would go, by golly, you're right. Here is the money. You know, hold me to it. It's like with my wife. My wife is the sweetest woman, absolutely the sweetest woman on earth. You know what she said to me when we were talking about getting married? She told me, came to me and said, I don't need one. But if you want me to sign a prenup because you're afraid I'm going to take 50% of what you might eventually make, I'm willing to do it. Now, how fucking sweet is that? How sweet is that to have somebody who is so in love with you that they're willing to sign any sort of prenuptial agreement that you might come up with just to marry you? That is very sweet. And I told her, no, you know why? No prenuptial agreement. Because here's what I think. If I become rich and famous someday, make a ton of money, you know, and I'm out, you know, doing my thing or whatever, and, you know, what is it that would drive her and I apart? Well, it would be cheating, right? Cheating would be the thing that would drive us apart, probably, most likely. And you know what? If I ever cheat on her, sort of the way I put it, if I ever cheat on you, then you are fully within your rights, as far as I think, to take me for everything. Well, not everything, but, you know, to take your share. Definitely, you are fully within your right to sue me for half my shit. You know what I mean? Even if all of that stuff was generated by me while we were married. I'm just that fiercely loyal to my wife, and I think that it's a perfectly fair turnaround for her to be able to take me for half, as it were, you know, if I fuck around on her. So that's always been my opinion. And so, like I said, there you go. And now it's recorded in my voice, so you know, if there's some point 10 years down the road, an attorney can dig it up and go, see, this'll be an easy case. We'll take him for half of what he has. Well, there you go. You know what? Maybe I'm just young and idealistic, future self. But I feel that way. I definitely do. I feel that that it would be so wrong to be unfaithful to my wife, that if she were to punish me by taking half of my worldly possessions, then I think I would have earned that punishment. So, but that's just the way I feel about it. I'm sure there are plenty of other people who would disagree with me, and I know plenty of people who are polyamorous who are probably laughing at this whole thing right now. Oh, what a silly guy he is. He's getting into this. Oh, silly. Well, you know what? Polyamorous people, I got something for you. I got something to say to you. Polyamory is wonderful, and I'm glad that you can do it. But it's also, in my opinion, a sexual preference, just like homosexuality and heterosexuality. If you're polyamorous, you probably can only be polyamorous. I'm not polyamorous. I'm monogamous. So, to each his own. No right, no wrong. We all have our own sexual preference. And as long as you're not touching little boys or little girls in inappropriate places, then your sexual preference is A-okay by me. That's basically the way I look at it. So, now that we're talking about my sexual preferences, which is not the direction that I really meant to go in originally with this particular podcast, but hey, you know, I'm sure that there might even be some people out there who are doing the TMI, but you know, well, I don't know. I'm open. I like to be honest with people. I like to be open. I like to put how I feel out there and be candid. That's the word I'm looking for. I like to be candid when I talk. When I do these podcasts. So, Well, I think we're gonna wrap this up for tonight. I've talked about all kinds of interesting things. I've talked about my magazines. I've talked about different things that are cool that are going on Kickstarter right now. And I've talked about, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Kickstarter, it's www.kickstarter.com. I'll put a link to Voyage of the Tereshkova in the video comments section, and I'll put a link to the Robotech one there too, just for shits and giggles. And so check those out. And we also talked about Freemasonry, and as I said, if you have any questions at all about Freemasonry, shoot those my way. If I can't answer them, then I probably know someone who can, and I'd love to be able to answer them on this podcast, sort of in public for people to see. And you know what, if you don't want me to include your name with your question, if that's the reason why I haven't been getting very many questions, if you're holding back your question because you want you don't want your name associated with it, I'm perfectly, just put a note, I'm asking this anonymously, or go on Tumblr. My Tumblr account has anonymous ask enabled. You just ask something on Tumblr, say on your podcast XYZ, I have this question. What does the square and compass stand for? Please tell me on your podcast, sincerely anonymous. And I'll be like, okay, sure, and I'll address it in the next podcast. So, drop those off on my various web pages. I have a ton of them out there. www.eswin.com has one, and I'll include that in the links down underneath the video. And I'm also on Tumblr. Let me give you that address real quick. That's eswin.tumblr.com. So check that out, and then I'll put a link to that in the comments box below too. And you can, like I said, if you want to do an anonymous ask, you can do one there. And so I'm always interested in hearing from people, and it gives me some neat things, exciting things to talk about. So drop me a line, and this has been the Midnight Rider podcast, so named because I am a writer, I am an author, and I write all night and sleep all day. And so drop me a line, and I'll see you next podcast.